All right, so good evening again, Bella. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today about Tayo Sustainable Strategies and Creative Consultancy. As a change agency that innovates design for both people and the planet, Tayo has captured our attention with its unique approach to sustainability and creativity. Today, we'd like to explore Tayo's journey, your innovative approaches, and the impact you're making on businesses, communities, and the environment. We're looking forward to gaining deeper insights into Tayo's mission and vision and understanding how you're shaping a more sustainable future through your creative and strategic work. Now, let us begin with the first question. So, Bella, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role at Tayo?
Okay. So hi, I'm Bella. I'm the co-founder of Tayo Change Agency. And I started together with my sister back in 2018. We actually haven't formally launched it yet. But we are it's currently still an ongoing company. We have clients that we've been working with, and we're planning to formally launch it this December. And it kind of grew out of an organization that me and my sister started back in 2015 called Kids for Kids. That was more of like our NGO organization. And then through our creative education programs, we kind of birthed Tayo in 2018.
Okay, thank you for that. Um, what inspired you to start Tayo Sustainable Strategies and Creative Consultancy?
So we had a lot of experience working with corporations and government, especially running Kids for Kids at a very young age. So we're kind of like a bunch of high school kids running an organization that we didn't want to be an organization. It was more of like a movement, really. But then we were pushed in a lot of rooms and conference centers with government officials because since we were young high school kids, we were basically like the token youth in these events. And what we found lacking a lot was basically the gap between what the youth was doing and what they wanted to learn and what the experts were actually doing at kind of more official level. And there was a lot of white paper and laws that a lot of like youth wanted to learn about that wasn't really included in our curriculums, but a lot of like government officials were talking about, and that's actually like what a lot of like the environmental conferences were about. So there's like that just gap in the education system. And so with that, we started kind of over the pandemic, a lot of programs and like how do you call it? Like a lot of Zoom conferences, I guess, with different environmental lawyers and different like DNR to kind of create like creative educational outlets and posters and graphics so the youth could digest these things properly. And because we did a lot of that for them, they kind of saw like the potential for this gap to be closed between like the youth sector and the government. Um, and so they would ask Kids for Kids to do a lot of their campaigns for them. But because we were in high school, we didn't know that we could get paid for things like that. So basically, we then saw that kind of gap between learning about basically the issues at a government level about our country at the early age, because that's something that we learn already in college, but I feel like a lot of people in high school already kind of interested and wanted to do the work as well. And so that's how we kind of birthed Tayo into being that kind of hub to create um kind of like the missing link with what these corporations were doing, and which was already kind of like what the youth was doing. It was like kind of inserting creative education into different nature-based solutions. And so kind of giving them that perspective. And so it kind of turned into first kind of a creative consultancy. And then we added like the sustainability aspect, because that's what a lot of clients were asking for. Like, how can they be more sustainable, more ethical, and what the new generation kind of wanted to see in their companies. And then we realized that what we were really doing was ESG consulting and auditing as well. So that's one of our main specialties that we do. But we also on the side obviously do still the marketing and the branding.
Mhm.
But the difference is with Tayo is what we also found out is there's a lack of culture within the local branding and all like aspects of like whether it be like corporate marketing or whether it be like a startup or a fashion brand, kind of inserting that local culture within their branding and not, taking too much from the West or from other countries, but really
Mm-hmm.
seeing that you can kind of let your identity stand out kind of with like the Philippine culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Tayo does. We kind of like identify that within each one of our clients. So our first client actually, which was kind of how we kind of grew Tayo, was Smart PLDT. So
Mm.
they actually reached out to us on Instagram through our Kids for Kids page because they really like their graphics and how we kind of made it digestible for the youth to
Mhm.
understand. Um, and they needed us to do a campaign for their online safer online to kind of educate people on online sexual exploitation, but not making it too like heavy for people to kind of grasp, because there are a lot of these issues that are very important. It's like really heavy, and so a lot of
Mhm.
people just scroll past because like they don't really want to deal with that. But how to do it in a way that it's more educational and we kind of persuade people to learn more about it. And so we did that campaign with them, and then we kind of grew a partnership from there. And so we were able to kind of identify that if they want to talk about being safe online, they should actually also do something, knowing that they are a really big company that also kind of is a vehicle for such issues to happen, right? And so we partnered them up. We connected them to UNICEF and UNICEF's program with the Australian Embassy, that kind of worked towards this kind of safer kids program. And then we also kind of helped them create a whole program for target communities that had like high case for online sexual exploitation. And they were able to fund. We were able to help them fund BCPs, or kind of like the monitors that could help track the online sexual exploitation cases within those communities. So it's things like that. It's like if they come to us saying like, oh, we want to do like marketing or branding or campaign, we also say like, okay, so what's the follow-up action for that? Because that's what happens with a lot of corporations, is that we don't want them to be just all talk, and that's where greenwashing happens. We also want them to kind of follow with
Mhm.
action. So that's where we kind of help them in a way that isn't like um because a lot of corporations tell us like they get hesitant to approach the youth because they want to get quote unquote attacked. But it's more or less kind of like working with them in a way that's intergenerational and sharing that they also want to make a change and a difference,
Mhm.
but in a way that can communicate easily with the youth and like the issues of the day. So that's what currently Tayo does. And we've been doing it for around 4 years now.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, but we're still like a really small team because we haven't
Yeah.
launched yet. So it's literally fresh grads still, and a lot of students still in college actually.
Mhm.
Which is really fun because we all more or less we're on the same wavelength since we're all like the same age.
Yeah.
So it's all fun like to collaborate and stuff.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I'll give the floor to Marcus to ask the next question.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
hello, Bella. Good morning. Um, this next question comes in two parts, actually. The first part being, is Tayo a profit-oriented business or a partnership? And the second part is, how is it structured?
Okay, yeah. So it's a for-profit. So basically it's like how your normal agency would work. So we hire clients and they pay directly. We have different kind of packages depending on the client. So if they're a big corporation, or if they're an NGO, or if they're a startup, or if they're an individual. And then depending on what they want. So our services include branding. So that's under that is like marketing, brand architecture, events, campaigns. And then we also have kind of like a organizational awareness. So it's a lot of like educational campaigns. And so like what we did with Smart is that we also hosted different online Zoom conferences with their employees of the sustainability department as well. So kind of like we get paid to do that, to kind of educate and not educate, but like collaborate with the employees of the corporation. So things like that. Corporations can hire us to do that. The other one would be the ESG consulting and auditing. Um, but right now, a lot of clients, we get them for like the branding and marketing mostly. So those are three main. pillars. And so basically it's for profit. So obviously like it goes to the company. But then a percentage of it goes to our organization. So that's Kids for Kids, because we also realized while running an NGO, it was so hard to keep on crowdfunding to sustain all our projects. And so because we started Tayo, which is a for-profit company, we decided to make it more sustainable as well. It will also help fund the projects of Kids for Kids. So that's more or less how our structure works. And me and my sister are the co-founders. But right now, I am an active consultant since I'm abroad and not in the Philippines to work directly with the team. So my sister is the co-founder and creative director, and then under her we don't really like doing like hierarchy. So in the same plane is 10 of our friends and collaborators who work with us.
All right, thank you for that. Now, can you please share some specific examples of how Tayo's work has benefited your clients, the society, or even the environment?
It's a hard question. I guess well, we really saw the difference with the Smarts program because it's first started out as literally they just wanted us to do graphics for their Instagram campaign. And so that was successful. But then we realized that it grew into something way more when we also realized that they really were passionate about wanting to change and they just didn't know how to go about it. And so kind of partnering them with different organizations who we had in our network, it became like a whole program. So it was Smart, Save the Children, and UNICEF. And we were able to pair them all together to create that whole campaign where they were able to help 3 to 6, if I believe. Yeah, 3 to 6 communities that had high online sexual exploitation cases on children. And they were able to fund like the BCP. So that's like the community center as well as the educational pamphlets that we also created. We helped together with Save the Children and UNICEF. So they would provide us the information and then we would make the graphics. And then as well as like the monitors. So that we saw how that really had like an impact just from, doing their campaign to doing that whole thing. And that definitely led us to get more clients from their end as well. And I feel like it really helped because we also made sure that there was a follow-up on how the communities were doing. And so we made sure that they would also fund these follow-up events where UNICEF and Save the Children would go to these communities and still have the programs together with the children and the parents on educational for online sexual exploitation. And have everything both in Tagalog and in English for all the educational pamphlets and everything. And so it was an active program, I think. It's still ongoing, actually. And so every year there are newsletters that come out for the people within Smart to learn about what's going on. And I feel like that really was one of the really nice things that we were able to do and as our first client as well. And also over the pandemic. And it's also just nice because we just love kind of connecting these big corporations with smaller communities as well. So Smart asked us like, hey, we need 12,000 Christmas gift bags for our clients by they asked us like I think first week of November, they needed it by end of November. And so we were able to find a community that we used to work with, that we were supplying food to over the pandemic, who make bags out of rice sacks. And so we were able to employ the whole village during the pandemic to make all 12,000 of the gift bags for Smart. And it was all sustainable, all from like the old rice sacks. So it came from like a factory that gave all like discarded rice sacks and they would make it all into bags and employ the whole community. And we never really met these people directly. Everything was online through Zoom because of the pandemic. And then in 2022, when we were able to finally visit the community, they were super happy because they told us that like because they employed the whole village, like the whole village was able to have like a proper Noche Buena over the pandemic. And so we also told Smart that we were like, this actually made like such a big difference. So it's nice to have that kind of I guess perspective that we never had, kind of seeing like how corporations work and how we can kind of like it's not like showing them it's not that hard to kind of support our local communities in like the smallest ways possible. So that's what TAI really stands for, and that's what we do. And another client we had after that was actually the 19th, 13th, I'm so bad at numbers, but like the block of the Congress for the creative industries bill. So we did the whole marketing for Achieve. And there was a whole Instagram page just talking about and promoting why the creative industries bill should become a law. And I think it did. But we did the whole marketing for that, and through that, a lot of people were able to learn about all the creatives, all the Filipino creatives, even in the diaspora, because there's so many, and there's so many great ones, and we have so many great achievements within the creative industry in the Philippines. But then it's not talked about because it's not really a government supported industry as well. And so that was also nice because so many people kind of were so touched that they were being noticed, and a lot of people were so grateful that this information was coming out because they were able to find a network, find job opportunities through that platform just by knowing like how many successful Filipino creatives there are, and that's not being talked about. So that's one as well. And I think during the time that we were doing the marketing, I think it was fast, or it was considered, which was great. So yeah, and it was also really a good learning experience to learn how like it works with the government, because we'd had to bid, which was a crazy process. But yeah, so I feel like those are the small ways, and definitely when Taya also like gives a percentage to the Kids for Kids projects. Currently, Kids for Kids is trying to build a school in Siargao because right, there was a typhoon Odette in Siargao that happened in 2022. Up till now, a small island of Filian off the coast of Siargao still doesn't have, or DepEd still hasn't come to kind of fix their school up. So they didn't have school for like 2.5 years. But we last year were able to get the go signal from DepEd, because if it's a school land, any land that has a school in it, like DepEd owns, and you can't touch it. But then we're able to get the permission from DepEd to like we can privately fund it, so they can actually have a proper school, and it's actually built properly and not something that a typhoon can just destroy in a matter of a year. And so that's what we're currently crowdfunding for under Kids for Kids. And so that's also, I am so sorry. That is also some like the percentage of Tayo's profits that goes to that as well. So kind of like seeing how a little can go a long way. We really kind of love doing that because we kind of see like the benefits of like the work after. If that makes sense, yeah.
Okay. For my next question, what do you consider to be Tayo's most innovative aspect or offering?
I definitely feel like there's two ones that I can point out. One would be the cultural branding, definitely, because a lot of people kind of don't think about how that really impacts a brand's identity or their marketing, or even like the impact it has on the customers when a brand is so passionate about its story being culturally rooted in being a Filipino. Because that's what we realize, even in terms of national branding, when it comes to tourism, or when it comes to when you go to like the different islands, whether it be like Palawan, Boracay, Dumaguete, like Siargao, like the branding when it comes to like the letters or like the merch, like if it's very westernized or very commercialized, there's a difference when it really is from like the local communities, and when their work is being noticed, and when like the little things that make the island unique is literally from the culture of the community and their stories. And so things like that, so that's what we consider really is like what is your brand rooted in, and what's the story of it, and making it more personal, definitely, because we feel like that's what's lacking, is kind of having that sort of, not to be like cheesy, but like Filipino pride in a way within everyone's kind of business structure. And then the other one would definitely be the ESG consulting, only because I feel like a lot of people don't really think that a bunch of like college kids would know a lot. It's a very unique perspective as well, because it's coming from the youth directly, of like what we see around our environment and what social issues we have encountered, especially with Kids for Kids, because like we have a lot of teams regionally around the Philippines. And so when they are part of certain issues and stuff, we are updated with what is going on, because the Philippines is more than just Manila. And so my bad. And so it's just nice to kind of like have that perspective and like show corporations that it's not just um financial success that will make a company successful. It's really like the impact that they leave within their communities, that is what will make them sustainable. And not a lot of like companies still get that. So kind of having that perspective from someone who that they're like giving, the world to, and like the youth, like kind of showing them like you actually really have to do this and this and this. And actually it's really nice to collaborate with them, because you have that intergenerational conversation that goes on. It's not just like adult speaking to adult, it's like youth speaking to adult, and it has like you share different knowledge and information and stories, and you kind of both learn from each other. So it's a very more of like collaborative client experience rather than a one transactional thing, because we really make sure that our partnerships with our clients like go for the long run. Like we keep up with them, keep updated with what they're doing, to make sure that it's not just like a one-time big time thing. It's something that we make sure that if they have worked with us, like the impact is really sustained. So yeah.
All right, thank you for this, Bella. I will now be passing the mic to Ralph for the next set of questions.
Hi,
Okay.
Bella. I just have one question on my end. How scalable are Tayo's solutions? So can these initiatives be replicated or expanded?
I definitely feel like yes, it can be replicated. Because our I don't like, for us, our structure seems like very simple, but then maybe to others it can be more complicated. Because it's very collaborative, and it's very um more of like on hands together with like the client, and not really just we just like oversee things, but really work with them directly. I feel like a lot of companies can replicate this, especially when it comes to ESG consulting and auditing. Like really you have to be really nitty gritty and really just kind of call out yourself and your company for like what is missing. And there are a lot of solutions already, and a lot of solutions that companies are doing actually locally that people can kind of look after from. And so I definitely feel like it is very scalable, and it's very important that companies start kind of taking that into consideration, especially that it's already 2024 and we really only have like 6 years until there's a lot of irreversible damage that can happen, that can really affect the economy and their own companies, that some people don't realize that it just goes, it's like a back and forth thing, it's a circular thing. So I feel like it really can be scalable, and a lot of our clients, especially like Smart and Achieve, when we let go of them, they still kind of continue what we have worked with them, like the programs. So I feel like that's also proof that it can work even if like we're not there to guide them. If that helps your question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that was a great answer. Thank you so much. I'm passing it to Matt now for some more questions.
Okay, I also have one question. Hi, Bella. So what measures do you guys use to assess the net positive impact of your projects on the business, society, and the environment?
I feel like it really depends per client. It depends what service they ask for, and it depends what the project is. So pretend for the one for the Smart, the success metrics is really like the amount of cases that were lowered that within the community, or the amount of cases that were reported. Also the amount of um adults and children that attended the educational programs, and how many were reoccurring kind of participants within like the program that we helped them make. So that was kind of how we did those success metrics for that, since I think it was more of a social, like touching on the social issues. And then for Achieve, that was more of like the branding and marketing side, and definitely was how normal agency works. Like the success metrics were really based on like the insights and the engagements and everything, which also really made a difference in terms of like the awareness of the campaign, which was really important. And then in terms of environment, so right now, we are working with a new client and they are more on food. And so we did the whole branding for them. But what we are pitching now is their packaging. So kind of changing the plastic packaging, and how we're gonna kind of do the success metrics of that is that currently it is expensive for them not to use single waste, which makes sense because it's a frozen good. But kind of creating a program for them where there's a take back system where people can recycle their plastics and it can turn into something else. And so the amount of plastics recycled, or that waste, and the amount of products that are created with their waste, that's how we would kind of measure the success of that. I think that would be more of environment as well. And then another example, well, it's under Tayo, but then it's a project of Tayo's NGO, which is Kids for Kids, which would be the educational programs that we currently fund within the island of Halian in Siargao, which is a very, very small island. And we help fund educational programs for the kids there currently who have makeshift schools. The success metrics obviously are like how many kids attend and the recurring, and we like kind of dealing with success based on more of like qualitative. So what the kids kind of feel after each educational program, what they have learned, and the impact. And like pretend we did one coastal cleanup with them, and we thought, I think they were taught how to kind of like cut the plastics and turn them into like fillers for like their bag for pillows and stuff like that. And one, they made it into a business, which is super cute. And two, they always like the kids just make it a habit just to pick up trash. And whenever we visit Halian, like it's just automatic for them already. And another success metric, in terms of I guess social as well, is we funded reading programs for them for 2 years. And they were the first, I think, small island community to win one of DepEd's like reading literacy award. Because we kept on just funding all the reading, all the books, all the reading programs for the teachers and things like that. So that was one of a proud moment for like the community as well. So it really depends per client, but really make sure that these metrics are sustained even after we have ended a contract with them.
Well, thank you so much, dude. Wow. I'll be passing the floor to Jenny for the last set of questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Hello.
so for your last question, since Tayo bloomed after the success of your first NGO, which is Kids for Kids, how do you see Tayo 5 years from now?
Well, since we're planning to physically and publicly launch this December, hopefully. In the next 5 years, really see it as well, because right now we're a small team, so we can really only take 1 to 2 clients a year because we're so small. So hopefully in the next 5 years, we really see most of our project coming into food for nutrition, especially at the school, and then that being a pilot, so we can kind of fund more schools like that in more like small island communities as well. And kind of being one of like, because we don't want to be the only company that does this, because it's definitely needed. But maybe like more of like the leading companies that kind of corporations kind of understand and can see the significance of getting a youth perspective, especially like the importance of ESG right now, especially in the Philippine corporations, since we are like the third most vulnerable to the climate change risks. So definitely seeing that, and also replicating with it per region as well. So like how our Kids for Kids are, we have different regional teams, maybe like different, Tayo teams within at least one in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and maybe even abroad as well, to kind of touch with the Filipino communities here as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that wraps up all our questions. So thank you once again, Bella, for your insights and experiences with us today. It's inspiring to hear how Tayo's sustainable strategies and creative consultancy is making meaningful impact through its dedication to sustainability, creativity, and youth empowerment. So again, we appreciate your time and we look forward to seeing how Tayo continues to shape a brighter, more sustainable future for businesses, communities, and the environment. So thank you so much for an enlightening conversation, and we wish for you and Tayo continued success in your endeavors. Thank you.